The Galactic Concordance Academy floated in the darkness of space like a small moon. Its silver walls reflected the light of 3 distant stars. Inside those walls, thousands of young beings from across the galaxy learned how to fight, how to think, and how to survive. The academy was home to creatures of every shape and size. Some walked on 2 legs, some on 4, and some floated through the air without legs at all. Instructor Hyunwoo walked through the main corridor with steady steps. He was human, which made him unusual here. Humans had only joined the galactic community 40 years ago. Most species in the Concordance still thought of humans as newcomers. They were curious about these strange mammals from a planet called Earth. Humans had no claws, no thick armor, no natural weapons. They looked soft and weak compared to most other species, but those who knew humans understood that looks could be deceiving. Hyunwoo was of average height for a human, with dark hair cut short and dark eyes that seemed to notice everything. He wore the simple gray uniform of an academy instructor. No medals, no badges, nothing to show off. He preferred it that way. His students would remember him for what he taught, not for what he wore. The corridor was busy with cadets heading to their next classes. A group of tall Vrex warriors passed by, their scales clicking against each other with each step. The Vrex were predators from a harsh world. They stood over 8 feet tall with massive claws and teeth designed for tearing meat. Most species feared the Vrex. Hyunwoo simply nodded at them as they passed. They nodded back with respect. Near the wall, a cluster of Chithari students chittered to each other in their insect language. Their translators turned the sounds into words that others could understand. The Chithari were brilliant scholars, their compound eyes able to process information faster than most species could think. They noticed Hyunwoo and went quiet for a moment, watching him pass. Hyunwoo had been teaching at the academy for 3 years. He taught Advanced Tactical Response, a class that mixed students from different species and taught them how to work together in combat situations. His class was known for being difficult. Many students failed, but those who passed came out different. They moved with more confidence. They thought more clearly under pressure. They understood that survival was about more than just strength. He reached the combat arena and stepped inside. The arena was a massive circular room with high ceilings and walls made of reinforced metal. The floor was covered with training mats. Weapons racks lined the walls, filled with practice weapons designed for different species. Everything from blades to projectile weapons to energy staffs. 20 cadets stood in formation in the center of the arena. They came from 8 different species. Some were large, some small. Some had fur, some had scales, some had skin like humans. They all wore the standard cadet uniform, a dark blue jumpsuit with their species designation on the shoulder. Supervising them was Mentor Thrassix, a Vrex veteran with scars covering his scales. Thrassix had fought in the border wars 20 years ago. He had killed enemies with his bare claws and survived battles that would have destroyed entire ships. Now he taught young cadets how to stay alive. He was strict, sometimes cruel, but effective. Cadets who trained under Thrassix rarely died in their first real combat. Hyunwoo climbed the steps to the observation platform and stood next to another instructor, a Myrene female named Instructor Salis. The Myrene had blue skin and could breathe underwater. Salis was responsible for aquatic combat training. "How are they doing today?" Hyunwoo asked quietly. "Better than yesterday," Salis replied. Her voice had a musical quality to it. "But that Kelvathi cub is struggling." 3rd day in a row. Hyunwoo looked down at the formation. He spotted the Kelvathi cadet immediately. The Kelvathi were a species of pack hunters. They looked similar to Earth's wolves but walked upright on 2 legs. They had 4 eyes, thick fur, and powerful jaws. This particular cub was young, probably barely old enough to attend the academy. His fur was still patchy in places, showing his youth. His name tag read Rixtal. Next to Rixtal stood a human cadet named Jihoon. Jihoon was one of Hyunwoo's best students. He moved with economy and precision, never wasting energy. His eyes were always watching, always calculating. Jihoon came from a military family on Earth. His father had been a soldier and his grandfather before him. Combat was in his blood. "Begin the drill," Thrassix ordered, his voice rumbling through the arena. The cadets moved in unison, practicing a formation designed for defending against multiple attackers. Each cadet had a practice weapon. They had to work together, covering each other's weak points while advancing forward. It was a basic drill, but it required teamwork and awareness. Rixtal fumbled his weapon. It clattered to the floor. His four eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of embarrassment and frustration in his species. He bent down to pick it up, breaking the formation. The cadet behind him had to adjust, and the entire line wavered. "Hold," Thracic shouted. The formation stopped. The Vrex mentor walked toward Rixtal with heavy steps. Each footfall echoed in the arena. "You break formation again, Cub. You endanger your packmates." Rixtal's ears pressed flat against his skull. "I apologize, mentor. I will do better." "You said that yesterday," Thracic growled. "And the day before. Words mean nothing without action. You dishonor your pack with such weakness." The words hit Rixtal like a physical blow. In Kelvathi culture, honor and pack were everything. To be told you dishonored your pack was one of the worst insults possible. The Cub's body went rigid. His breathing quickened. Hyunwoo watched carefully. He recognized the signs. The Cub was reaching his breaking point. "Again," Thracic ordered. "From the beginning. And if you fail this time, you will run 50 laps around the arena." The cadets reset their positions. Rixtal picked up his weapon with shaking hands. His fur was standing on end now, making him look larger. His lips trembled slightly, showing the tips of his teeth. "Begin," Thracic commanded. The formation moved forward. Rixtal tried to keep pace, but his movements were jerky and uncertain. His weapon felt too heavy in his hands. He could feel the eyes of every other cadet on him, watching, judging. In his mind, he heard his father's voice telling him he was too weak for the academy. He heard his littermates laughing at him for wanting to leave the homeworld. The weapon slipped again. This time, Rixtal caught it before it fell, but his position was wrong. He was out of sync with the others. "Pathetic," Thracic said, stopping the drill again. "You move like prey, not a hunter. Your ancestors would be ashamed." Something inside Rixtal snapped. Rixtal's ears flattened completely against his skull. His four eyes narrowed to slits. Deep in his chest, something primal stirred. It was the same instinct that had kept his species alive for thousands of years on their dangerous homeworld. The instinct that told him when to submit and when to fight back. A low growl rumbled from his throat. The sound cut through the arena like a blade. Every cadet froze instantly. Growling at a superior was forbidden in the academy. It was a challenge, a threat, an act of open aggression. For a Cub to growl at a mentor was unthinkable. It could mean expulsion. It could mean worse. The other Kelvathi cadets in the formation stared at Rixtal with wide eyes. One of them, an older female named Sira, shook her head slowly. In their culture, challenging a superior outside your pack was social suicide. Rixtal would be shamed. His family would be shamed. No pack would want him after this. Mentor Thracic turned slowly. His massive body moved with the deliberate grace of a predator who knew he was in complete control. His yellow eyes locked onto the small Kelvathi cub. His claws extended slightly, catching the light. Each claw was as long as a human finger and sharp enough to tear through metal. "What did you say, whelp?" Thracic's voice was quiet now, but somehow more dangerous than when he shouted. It was the voice of a hunter deciding whether prey was worth chasing. Rixtal's growl grew louder. His rational mind screamed at him to stop, to submit, to drop his eyes and show his throat in the traditional gesture of surrender. But his instincts were in control now. His body was flooded with chemicals that his species had evolved over millions of years. Chemicals that prepared him to fight or flee. And there was nowhere to flee in the arena. His hackles rose. The fur along his spine stood straight up. His lips peeled back further, showing all of his teeth. In the wild, this display would make other predators think twice. But this was not the wild, and Mentor Thracic was not impressed. Thracic took a step forward. His foot came down hard on the training mat. The sound echoed like thunder. "You challenge me, Cub? You think those milk teeth can harm me?" The other instructors on the observation platform tensed. Instructor Salas leaned forward. A Vrex instructor named Kregoth put his hand on his weapon. They were ready to intervene if necessary, but Academy tradition allowed certain conflicts to play out. Young cadets needed to learn about consequences. Sometimes those lessons were painful. Hyunwoo remained still. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes never left Rixtal. Thracic took another step. He was now within striking distance of the cub. One swipe of those claws could end this confrontation permanently. The Vrex were not known for mercy when challenged. In their culture, challenges were answered with violence. It was the only language that mattered. "Last chance, Cub," Thracic rumbled. "Submit now, or I will teach you why cubs do not challenge warriors." Rixtal's growl faltered slightly. Some part of his consciousness was breaking through the instinct. He looked up at the massive Vrex warrior looming over him. Thrassix was 3 times his size. Those claws could gut him in seconds. His teeth meant nothing against armored scales. If this became a real fight, he would die. But his pride would not let him submit. His fear would not let him stop growling. He was trapped between 2 instincts, frozen in place, unable to go forward or back. The arena held its breath. 20 cadets stood motionless, watching. They came from different worlds, different cultures, but they all understood what was happening. This was a test, not of strength, but of will. The cub had made a terrible mistake, and now he would pay for it. Jihoon watched from his position in the formation. His hand twitched slightly as if he wanted to do something but knew he should not interfere. Next to him, a Chithari cadet's mandibles clicked nervously. Across the formation, Sira closed her eyes. She could not watch what was about to happen to her fellow Kelvathi. Thrassix raised one massive arm. His claws caught the light of the arena's overhead fixtures. He would not kill the cub, probably, but the lesson would leave scars. Then Hyunwoo moved. He did not run. He did not jump down from the observation platform. He simply walked down the steps at a normal pace. His boots made soft clicking sounds on the metal stairs. Each step was measured and calm. He crossed the training mat toward the frozen tableau of the massive Vrex mentor and the small Kelvathi cub. He did not hurry. He did not raise his voice. He did not draw any weapon. He simply walked with the absolute confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was doing and expected everyone else to understand that fact. When he reached Thrassix and Rixtal, he stepped between them. It was a foolish thing to do by any logical measure. Hyunwoo was barely half Thrassix's height. He had no claws, no natural armor, no enhanced strength. If Thrassix decided to strike, the human would be crushed. But Hyunwoo did not look at Thrassix. He looked down at Rixtal. His dark eyes met the cub's 4 eyes. There was no anger in Hyunwoo's face, no fear. Just a calm, steady gaze that seemed to see through the cub's fur and skin and bone, directly into whatever was driving him. "Apologize," Hyunwoo said. His voice was quiet, so quiet that the cadets at the far end of the formation had to strain to hear it. But there was something in that quiet voice, something that made Rixtal's growl die in his throat like a candle flame snuffed out by a strong wind. The room went absolutely silent, not the silence of held breath, but something deeper, the kind of silence that comes when everyone present realizes they are witnessing something important, something they will remember and talk about for years to come. Rixtal stared at the human. Hyunwoo was not large. He was not imposing. He carried no weapons. But standing there in his simple gray uniform, he seemed to fill the entire arena. The cub felt something shift in his chest. The instinct that had been driving him to aggression suddenly reversed. Now it was telling him to submit. Not to Thrassix, but to this small human who had stepped between them. Rixtal did not understand why he felt this way. He only knew that every fiber of his being was telling him that this human was dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with claws or teeth. This was a different kind of predator. One that hunted with patience and intelligence rather than speed and strength. Rixtal's voice came out as a whisper. He swallowed and tried again. "I said, apologize," Hyunwoo repeated. Same quiet voice, same steady gaze, but now the word carried weight. It was not a request. It was not even an order. It was simply a statement of what was going to happen next. Behind Hyunwoo, Mentor Thrassix had not moved. His arm was still raised, claws still extended, but he was watching the human now. Watching and waiting. The other instructors on the observation platform had gone completely still. Instructor Salus's mouth hung slightly open. Krigoth's hand had fallen away from his weapon. Even the cadets seemed to have forgotten how to breathe. Rixtal felt his heart pounding in his chest. The human stood before him, waiting. There was no impatience in Hyunwoo's posture. No frustration in his eyes, just that steady, patient gaze that seemed to say he would stand there forever if necessary. Time itself would bend before this human would. The cub's mind raced. Every instinct that had driven him to growl at Mentor Thrassix had vanished. Now those same instincts were screaming something else entirely. They were telling him that this human, this small creature without claws or fangs, was the most dangerous thing in the arena. More dangerous than Thrassix. More dangerous than anything Rixtal had ever encountered. But how could that be? The human had done nothing. He had not threatened. He had not attacked. He had simply walked over and said one word. Yet somehow that word spoken in that quiet voice had more power than all of Thrassix's rage. Rixtal's 4 eyes darted sideways to look at Mentor Thrassix. The massive Rex warrior still stood with his arm raised, but he had not struck. He was waiting. Waiting for what? For Rixtal to obey the human? Why would a Rex warrior defer to a human? Then Rixtal understood something that made his fur stand on end again, but this time not from anger. From recognition. Predators knew other predators. His species had learned that lesson millions of years ago on their homeworld. The biggest predator was not always the most dangerous. Sometimes the small ones, the quiet ones, were the ones you had to fear most. "I apologize, Mentor Thrassix," Rixtal said. His voice was shaky but clear. "My behavior was unacceptable. I dishonored myself and my pack. I accept whatever punishment you deem appropriate." Mentor Thrassix slowly lowered his arm. His claws retracted into their sheaths. He looked down at the cub for a long moment, then inclined his massive head. "Apology accepted, Cadet Rixtal. Return to formation." Rixtal practically scrambled back to his position in the line. His legs felt weak, his tail tucked low between his legs, the ultimate sign of submission in his species. Sira, the older Kelvathi cadet, gave him a small nod. Her eyes showed relief. He would live. He would not be expelled. Somehow, impossibly, he had been given a second chance. Hyunwoo turned to face the full formation of cadets. Every eye was locked on him. Vrex, Kelvathi, Chithari, humans, and 4 other species. All of them were staring at the human instructor who had just done something impossible. "Discipline is not about dominance," Hyunwoo said. His voice was still quiet, but now it carried clearly through the arena. "It is not about who is bigger or stronger. It is not about who has the sharpest claws or the thickest armor. Discipline is about control." He walked slowly along the formation line. The cadets tracked him with their eyes but did not turn their heads. They maintained their positions. "Control of your environment," Hyunwoo continued. "Understanding where you are and what resources you have available. Control of your opponent, knowing their weaknesses and their strengths, predicting their actions before they take them." He stopped in front of Jihoon. The human cadet stood at perfect attention, his face calm and focused. Hyunwoo nodded slightly at him, then continued walking. "But most importantly, discipline is about control of yourself, your emotions, your instincts, your fear." He glanced back at Rixtal. "Fear is not weakness. Fear keeps you alive. But fear without control makes you dangerous to everyone around you, including yourself." He reached the end of the formation and turned back to face them all. "The galaxy does not care if you are strong. Strength means nothing if you cannot think, if you cannot adapt, if you cannot work with others who are different from you." He gestured around the arena. "Look at the beings standing next to you. Different species, different worlds, different instincts. But you are all here to learn the same thing. How to survive in a universe that wants to kill you." The arena was so quiet that Rixtal could hear his own heart beating, could hear the soft breathing of the cadet next to him, could hear the faint hum of the arena's environmental systems. "You will face enemies out there," Hyunwoo said. "Enemies who are bigger than you, faster than you, better armed than you, and you will survive not because you are the strongest, but because you are smart enough to make the right choices under pressure." He looked directly at Rixtal again. "That is discipline, not blind obedience, not submission, but the wisdom to know when to fight, when to stand down, and when to trust those who have more experience than you." Hyunwoo turned and walked back toward the observation platform. He climbed the steps slowly, his boots clicking on the metal. When he reached the top, he turned and nodded to Mentor Thrassix. Thrassix watched the human for a moment longer, then turned back to his cadets. "Continue the drill," he ordered, but his voice was different now. Less harsh, more measured. The formation began moving again. This time Rixtal kept pace. His hands were steady on his weapon, his movements synchronized with the others. He did not fumble. He did not break formation. He moved as if he had been doing this drill for months instead of days. Jihoon noticed the change. The young Kelvathi cub was flowing through the movements now, no longer fighting against himself. Whatever had been blocking him before was gone. On the observation platform, Instructor Salis leaned toward Hyunwoo. "What you did was incredibly dangerous," she whispered. "If Thrassix had decided to strike while you were between them?" "He would not have," Hyunwoo replied quietly. "How could you know that?" Hyunwoo watched the formation moving below. Because Thrassix is a warrior, not a murderer. He was teaching a lesson, not seeking blood. He understood what I was doing. And what were you doing? Salus asked, showing them that authority does not come from violence. It comes from certainty. If you act with absolute confidence, others will follow your lead. Even those who could destroy you physically. Salus shook her head in wonder. Your species is terrifying. No, Yunwu said. We are just very, very good at understanding social dynamics. Humans learned long ago that the strongest individual rarely leads the pack. The smartest one does. Below, Mentor Thrassix called for a break. The cadets dispersed to get water and rest. Rixtal stood alone for a moment, catching his breath. Then Jihoon approached him. Good recovery, Jihoon said. Rixtal looked at the human cadet. I almost died today. No, Jihoon said. You almost made a fatal mistake. But Instructor Hyunwoo gave you the chance to correct it. That is a gift. Do not waste it. Why did he do that? Why did he step between us? Jihoon smiled slightly. Because that is what humans do. We protect the pack even when the pack member is not human. Instructor Hyunwoo saw a young cadet in trouble and gave him a way out. You took it. You chose wisdom over pride. That is why you are still standing here. Rixtal thought about this. On his homeworld, the strong dominated the weak. There was no mercy, no second chances. You survived or you died. But humans operated differently. They built systems, created rules, protected each other. It was strange, alien, but also powerful. I want to learn more, Rixtal said quietly. Then pay attention, Jihoon replied. Instructor Hyunwoo teaches more than just combat tactics. He teaches survival. Real survival. The kind that keeps you breathing when everything else says you should be dead. The break ended. The cadets returned to formation. For the rest of the training session, Rixtal did not fumble once. News traveled fast aboard the Galactic Concordance Academy. By the time evening meal arrived, every cadet in the station knew something had happened in the combat arena. The story grew with each telling. Some versions had Instructor Hyunwoo wrestling Mentor Thrassix to the ground. Others claimed he had used some kind of human mind control. A few even suggested he had pulled a hidden weapon. None of these stories were true, but truth mattered less than the fact that something impossible had occurred. A human instructor had stepped between a Vrex warrior and a Kelvathi cub, and both had obeyed him. The cafeteria buzzed with conversation. The massive room could hold 2,000 beings at once, spread across tables designed for different species. Some tables had chairs, some had perches, some had pools of water for aquatic species. The air smelled of 100 different foods, some appetizing to humans, some absolutely not. Jihoon sat at a table near the viewing windows. Next to him was Dahi, a human female with sharp features and brilliant tactical scores. She came from the same region of Earth as Jihoon, though they had not known each other before the academy. On Jihoon's other side sat Minho, another human male with broad shoulders and a quiet demeanor. Across from them sat Kliktar, a Chithari whose real name was a series of clicks and chirps that most species could not pronounce. The Kelvathi students are saying that Instructor Hyunwoo used some kind of pheromone weapon. Kliktar chittered. His translator rendered it in precise clip tones. A chemical that makes other species submit to human authority. Dahi snorted and nearly choked on her food. That is the stupidest thing I have heard all week. Humans do not have pheromone weapons. I know that, Kliktar said, but they do not. They are trying to understand how their cub survived challenging a Vrex mentor. Pheromone weapons make more sense to them than the truth. What about the Vrex? Minho asked. What are they saying? The Vrex believe Instructor Hyunwoo issued a combat challenge that Mentor Thrassix chose not to answer, Kliktar explained. They think he was protecting the cub by offering himself as an alternative target, and Thrassix respected the courage. Jihoon shook his head slowly. They are all wrong. They are trying to explain what happened using their own cultural frameworks. But humans do not work that way. So explain it to us, Dahi said. I was not in the arena. I only heard the stories. What really happened? Jihoon took a drink before answering. Rixtal growled at Mentor Thrassix. Open challenge. Thrassix was going to teach him a lesson, probably a painful one. Then Instructor Hyunwoo walked over, stood between them, and told Rixtal to apologize. And he did, that is it? Kliktar's mandibles clicked in confusion. No weapons? No threats? No displays of dominance? That is it, Jihoon confirmed. Then how did he make them obey? Kliktar asked. Minho leaned forward.
He did not make them obey.
He gave them no other logical option. Think about it from Mentor Thrassix's perspective. A cub challenges him. Disrespectful, yes, but ultimately meaningless. The cub cannot harm him. Then a human instructor walks over with complete confidence and addresses the situation. If Thrassix had struck the human, he would have been attacking another instructor. That would have brought serious consequences. So he waited to see what the human would do. And from Rixtal's perspective, he added, he was trapped between his instincts and his fear. Instructor Hyunwoo gave him a path out, a way to save face while backing down. The cub was smart enough to take it. Kliktar was quiet for a moment, processing this. So your instructor used psychology, social manipulation. We prefer to call it leadership, Jihoon said with a slight smile. Your species is terrifying, Kliktar said. It was the second time someone had said that today. Dahi grinned. You are just figuring that out now? Across the cafeteria at a table filled with Kelvathi cadets, Rixtal sat alone at one end. He was eating slowly, methodically, not tasting the food. The other Kelvathi were talking among themselves, occasionally glancing in his direction. Their body language made it clear they were discussing him. Sira, the older female Kelvathi, broke away from the group and moved to sit next to Rixtal. She did not speak at first, just sat with her own tray of food. Finally, after several minutes, she said quietly, You were lucky today. I know, Rixtal replied. Challenging Mentor Thrassix could have gotten you killed, or expelled. Or both, I know. Sira's ears twitched. So why did you do it? Rixtal was quiet for a long moment. I was afraid, he admitted. Afraid of failing. Afraid of dishonoring my family. Afraid of proving everyone right who said I was too weak for the academy. And when Mentor Thrassix called me pathetic, something inside me broke. I could not submit. Not again, pride, Sira said. Yes, stupid, dangerous pride. Rixtal set down his utensil, but then the human stepped between us. And suddenly I was not afraid anymore. I was not angry. I was just aware. Aware that I had made a terrible mistake. Aware that I had a chance to fix it. And I took that chance. The others are saying the human used magic on you, Sira said. Rixtal's ears flicked in amusement. No magic, just clarity. He saw what was happening and gave me a choice. Fight and die or apologize and live. I chose life. That was wise. It was survival, Rixtal corrected. Wisdom will come later, I hope. Sira's tail wagged slightly, a Kelvathi sign of approval. Perhaps there is hope for you after all, little cub. At another table, a group of Rex cadets were having their own discussion. They were larger than most species in the cafeteria, so they had a section to themselves where the tables and chairs could support their weight. Thrassix should have struck the human down. One of them growled. His name was Krek, and he was known for his aggressive attitude. Stepping between a warrior and his prey is an insult. Instructor Hyunwoo is not prey, another Rex cadet said. Her name was Vera, and she was more thoughtful than Krek. He is an instructor. Striking him would have been foolish. Why? Because he is small and weak? That makes him even less worthy of respect. No, Vera said patiently, because he walked into danger with confidence, not fear. That is a sign of a true warrior. Size means nothing if you do not have courage. Krek snorted. Humans have no claws, no fangs, no armor. They are soft creatures from a soft world. Vera laughed, a deep rumbling sound. You are wrong, Krek. Earth is classified as a high-gravity death world. The humans evolved fighting predators that would terrify us. They are persistence hunters. They chase their prey until it dies from exhaustion. They are patient, clever, and absolutely ruthless when necessary. If you ever face a human in real combat, you will learn these truths very quickly. Krek growled but said nothing more. He had heard stories about human soldiers in recent conflicts, stories that made even Vrex warriors think twice. In the instructor's dining area, a smaller, quieter section of the cafeteria, Mentor Thrassix sat with Instructor Hyunwoo. The two of them were an odd sight together, the massive Vrex warrior and the average-sized human eating in comfortable silence. Finally, Thrassix spoke. The cadets are inventing stories about what happened today. I know, Hyunwoo said. Let them. Stories become legends. Legends teach lessons. The lesson being that humans are not to be challenged, No, Hyunwoo said. The lesson is that authority comes from competence, not from violence. Any fool can hurt someone weaker than themselves. It takes wisdom to find solutions that do not require bloodshed. Thrasyx's scales rippled, a Vrex's expression of thought. On my homeworld, such thinking would be seen as weakness. And yet you stopped when I stepped between you and Rixtal. Because you are not a fool, Thrasyx said. You knew I would not strike an instructor. You used my own sense of honor against me. I gave you an opportunity to show mercy without appearing weak, Hyunwoo corrected. There is a difference. Thrasyx was quiet for a moment. Your species does not conquer with weapons. You conquer with ideas. We prefer to call it cooperation, Hyunwoo said. But yes. The Concordance fears humans, Thrasyx said bluntly. Did you know that? Yes. Does that bother you? Hyunwoo considered the question. Fear can be useful. It makes people pay attention. But fear alone is not enough. We need respect. We need partnership. Humans joined the Concordance to be part of something larger than ourselves, not to dominate it. Noble words, Thrasyx said. I hope you truly believe them. I do, Hyunwoo said. Time will prove it. 3 days passed since the incident in the combat arena. Life at the academy continued its usual rhythm. Classes, training sessions, meals, sleep. But something had changed in the way cadets looked at Instructor Hyunwoo. When he walked through corridors, conversations would pause. When he entered a room, everyone noticed. On the 4th morning, Hyunwoo arrived at his office to find someone waiting outside. Rixtal stood at attention, his posture rigid, his 4 eyes focused straight ahead. The young Kelvathi had been standing there for at least an hour based on his stance. Waiting. Patient. Cadet Rixtal, Hyunwoo said as he approached. At ease. Rixtal relaxed slightly but remained formal. Instructor Hyunwoo, I request permission to speak with you privately. Enter. Hyunwoo unlocked his office door and stepped inside. Rixtal followed, the door closing behind them with a soft hiss. The office was small and simple. A desk with a computer terminal. Shelves lined with data pads and old-fashioned books from Earth. A single chair for visitors. On one wall hung a photograph of a city. Tall buildings reaching toward the sky. Seoul, before humanity joined the Concordance. Rixtal remained standing at attention until Hyunwoo gestured to the chair. Sit. The young Kelvathi sat, his tail curling around the base of the chair. His ears twitched nervously. He had clearly prepared something to say, but now that he was here, the words seemed stuck in his throat. Hyunwoo settled into his own chair and waited. He had learned long ago that silence was often the best way to encourage people to speak. Finally, Rixtal found his voice. Why did you do it, Instructor? Do what? Protect me. I challenged the hierarchy. I disrespected Mentor Thrasyx. I deserved punishment, yet you stepped between us. You gave me a way out. Why? Hyunwoo leaned back in his chair, studying the young cadet. Do you know why humans became the dominant species on Earth? Rixtal shook his head. We were not the strongest. Not even close. There were predators on Earth that could kill us easily. We were not the fastest. Many animals could outrun us. We did not have claws or venom or thick armor. Hyunwoo gestured to the photograph of Seoul. But we had something else. We had the ability to cooperate, to build systems, to protect each other. He stood and walked to the window, looking out over the academy's training grounds. Below, groups of cadets were running drills. In the old days, before civilization, human tribes survived by protecting their members. The strong helped the weak. The experience taught the young. We learned that a tribe that abandons its weakest members becomes weak itself. But a tribe that lifts everyone up becomes stronger than any individual could be alone. Rixtal listened intently, his ears forward, focused. Your growl was not strength, Rixtal. It was fear. Fear of failure, fear of shame, fear of proving everyone right who said you were not good enough. Hyunwoo turned to face the cadet. I recognize that fear because I have seen it in 1,000 students. Human, Vrex, Kelvathi, it does not matter. Fear looks the same on every face. I was afraid, Rixtal admitted quietly. I am still afraid. Good, Hyunwoo said. Fear is useful. Fear tells you when danger is near. Fear keeps you alert. The problem is not having fear. The problem is letting fear control you. He returned to his desk and sat down. Discipline is learning to feel fear and act anyway. To make the right choice even when every instinct is screaming at you to run or fight. That is what I showed you in the arena. Not that you should submit, but that you should think before you act. Rixtal was quiet for a moment, processing this. On my homeworld, the strong eat the weak. There is no mercy. No second chances. You survive or you die. But humans operate differently. Yes, Hyunwoo said. We learned that survival is not just about individual strength. It is about collective intelligence. A pack of humans working together can bring down prey much larger than themselves. A community of humans can build cities, ships, civilizations. We conquered our world not through claws but through cooperation. And now you are teaching that to us, Rixtal said. To all of us. Different species, different instincts, but the same lessons. Exactly. Hyunwoo nodded. The galaxy is full of species who believe strength is everything. They are wrong. Intelligence is everything. Adaptability is everything. The ability to work with beings who are different from you is everything. Those who learn this survive. Those who do not, do not. Rixtal straightened in his chair. I want to learn, instructor. Not just combat tactics. I want to learn how to think like you do, how to see situations clearly, how to control my fear instead of letting it control me. Hyunwoo studied the young cadet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. Report to the auxiliary arena tomorrow at 0600. Bring Jihoon, Dahi, and Minho. We will begin. Begin what, instructor? Advanced training. If you want to learn how humans think, you need to train with humans. My 3 best students will teach you things that no formal class can. Teamwork, trust, communication under pressure. Are you willing? Yes, instructor. I am ready. We will see, Hyunwoo said. Dismissed. Rixtal stood, gave a formal bow in the Kilvathi style, and left the office. His step was lighter than when he had arrived. He had come seeking answers and found something better. He had found direction. After the young Kilvathi left, Hyunwoo sat quietly for a few minutes, thinking. There was a knock on his door. Enter, he called. Mentor Thrassix ducked through the doorway. His massive frame barely fit through the entrance designed for smaller species. He stood before Hyunwoo's desk, filling most of the small office. You are building something, Thrassix said without preamble. I am teaching, Hyunwoo replied. No, teaching is transferring knowledge. You are building, creating something new. Thrassix's yellow eyes were thoughtful. That Kilvathi cub. He will not be the same after training with your students. He will think differently. Move differently. He will become more human. He will become more disciplined, Hyunwoo corrected. He will still be Kilvathi. He will simply have new tools to work with. Thrassix rumbled, a sound deep in his chest. The Concordance fears humans. Did you know that? You mentioned this before, Hyunwoo said. I have thought about it more. I think I understand why now. Thrassix sat down heavily on the floor since no chair in the office could support his weight. Humans do not conquer with weapons. You conquer with ideas. You spread your way of thinking like a virus, and once someone starts thinking like a human, they can never go back. Hyunwoo was quiet, waiting for Thrassix to continue. That cub would have died in the old arena, Thrassix said. Before the Concordance, before the Academy, we've settled such challenges with blood. A young one who growled at a superior would be killed as an example to others. But you saved him with a word. Just a word. Apologize. And everyone obeyed. Including me. You chose to wait, Hyunwoo said. I simply gave you a reason to. No, Thrassix said firmly. You made me realize there was another option. Before you stepped forward, I saw only 2 paths. Punish the cub to maintain order, or let the challenge go unanswered and appear weak. You showed me a 3rd path. Let the cub save himself by making the right choice. Maintain order without violence. Everyone keeps their honor. Thrassix's scales rippled, his species' way of showing deep thought. That is power. Real power. Not the power to destroy, but the power to create solutions that benefit everyone. That is why the galaxy fears humans. Because you are teaching us all to think that way. And once we learn, we cannot unlearn it. Hyunwoo stood and walked to the window again. The training grounds below showed dozens of cadets from different species, all working together, learning together. Is that a bad thing? He asked quietly. I do not know yet, Thrassix admitted. But it is definitely changing everything. They stood in silence for a while, the massive Vrex warrior and the average human instructor, watching the future of the Concordance train below them. The cub asked me why I protected him, Hyunwoo said finally. I told him that humans learned long ago that protecting the weak makes the pack stronger, not weaker. Do you believe that? I am starting to, Thracic said. That frightens me almost as much as it intrigues me. Fear and intrigue, Hyunwoo said with a slight smile. That is a good combination for learning. Thracic stood, his head nearly touching the ceiling. Your species is patient, dangerous. The galaxy will never be the same after humans finish teaching us their ways. No, Hyunwoo agreed. It will not. The next morning, Rixtal arrived at the auxiliary arena at 5:45, 15 minutes early. He was not surprised to find Jihoon, Dahi, and Minho already there, warming up. Humans, he was learning, took punctuality very seriously. Jihoon saw him and nodded. Ready to begin? Yes, Rixtal said. Good, first lesson. When working with humans, we do not focus on individual strength. We focus on unit cohesion. Where you are weak, we are strong. Where we are weak, you are strong. Together we become something better than any of us alone. Dahi stretched, her movements fluid and controlled. Second lesson, communication. You have 4 eyes. You can see things we cannot. We have binocular vision and excellent pattern recognition. You tell us what you see, we will tell you what it means. Minho picked up a practice weapon. Third lesson, trust. In combat, you will trust us with your life. We will trust you with ours. That trust must be earned and maintained. Starting now. Instructor Hyunwoo entered the arena. He watched the 4 of them for a moment, then nodded with satisfaction. Begin. The training session lasted 3 hours. Rixtal struggled at first, his instincts fighting against the human methods. But slowly, gradually, he began to understand, began to adapt, began to think not as a lone hunter but as part of a pack that included humans. And in that moment, the galaxy changed a little bit more.